and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my very great privilege to be joined by the fabulous Diamond Drip. Diamond, welcome. I'm so looking forward to this conversation, and I know how easily we can get stuck into the chat. So before we do that, let me just share a little bit more about you with the people listening and watching. So Diamond is an award-winning speaker whose journey has been featured on KQED radio news, Onstage Plus Television, New York Weekly, and loads of podcasts. With a background in visual communications, business strategy, and a passion for personal growth, Diamond brings a unique blend of creativity, expertise, and energy to every conversation. Her mission: helping women break free from fear and self-doubt and step boldly into their power. Using tools like human design and gene keys, she guides folks to trust their intuition, embrace authenticity, and unlock their full potential. And she likes to say, the limit does not exist, but fear will make you think it does. I love that.
Thank you.
Don't we? We so think that that there's a limit, and we've imagined it, we've created it in our own brain, and then we use it as a reason to hold ourselves back and not take the leap.
Yes.
But Diamond, what a journey already. Can you share with us more about the journey so far? What's brought you here and what's next?
Yeah, for sure. So what brought me here was really my personal journey. So I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder when I was 14. During that time, really the only reason that I received that diagnosis was because of the actions that I was taking as a teenager to get away from my mom. My mom was undiagnosed borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. So I grew up thinking that everything that went wrong was always my fault. And so that to me. And so when things got really bad, especially when I grew into teenage years and I wanted to start having my own relationships and being my own person, my mom was like, no. And she would clamp down. She would clamp down harder. And it's beautiful what the healing journey does, right? We can laugh at these things now, but it was not a laughing matter back then. The only thing that I could think of to get away from it was through suicidal attempts or through self-harm or through these other things that ended up getting me landed in the hospital, thus receiving the diagnosis. And so the diagnosis was actually something that I struggled with accepting for 10 years because it really didn't feel like something that should have been a diagnosis that I received. And so I was really in denial for 10 years. And then I started to notice how irritable I was. And that forced me to kind of look more into like what the cause could be for that. And ended up looking at the symptoms for bipolar 2. And I was like, you know what? Some of this does actually track. And so right around that time that I had officially accepted my diagnosis, I was really pursuing natural medicine. And so I ended up finding a clinical trial that used psilocybin, which is the active component in magic mushrooms, to really see if it could heal treatment-resistant bipolar 2 depression. Cat's out of the bag, right? Several podcasts later, it did heal my depression. but that really was the catalyst, the awakening for me, because before then, I was telling myself a lot of old stories. I was subscribed to a lot of the narratives that we as a culture, the hustle grind, you got to do it all in order to prove your worth and all of that stuff. And that trial was a catalyst. It was like, no, actually, no. What makes you happy? What brings you joy? Because is it what you're doing? Because you're doing a bunch of stuff and you're burning out rapidly. For context, for our listeners who have not heard any of those podcasts, I was running a full-time product-based business. I had a side graphic design business. I was in school pursuing my visual communications degree, and my daughter was 3 at the time. So lots of things going on. And that trial taught me really about self-forgiveness and self-compassion and really letting go of things that weren't mine to hold in the first place.
Yeah. that so resonates, because we do, don't we? We carry around these beliefs and we believe they're ours. And then when we actually have something happen to us that makes us go inward and have a look at what's really going on. Where did they really come from? Do we even believe them anymore? Do we want to believe them? Or actually, are they just baggage that needs to be put down now? Go, there we go. I no longer need to bring you on the rest of my journey. That we realize that actually we've been holding ourselves back and running towards a journey that wasn't ours. And to your point, busy doing. I'm a busy doer. As long as I'm doing enough stuff, then I'll be successful. It's like, but what is success to you? And like, success to me is time with people I love and time with my daughter, and all those bits that are like, well, that might not be successful to anybody else, but it's what brings me joy. To your point, what are the things that bring you joy? But how did you make that step from being a busy doer with lots of things? I mean, 2 businesses, doing your education, a 3-year-old. I mean, beautiful age, but my little girl's 8 now. It's not that long ago. I still remember it. It's there's effort involved, isn't there? In that it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's not a walk in the park. How did you make that decision to take that step? Because I think sometimes we get to the point where we know we need to do something, but it's then knowing what action to take, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that was a really big thing for me. In the trial, they talk about after you go through the experience, don't make any major life decisions for at least 6 months, right? Because you could go into your experience and you could realize that your partner, right, your partner that you're married to is making you unhappy. And if you don't wait, you might divorce them before you have a chance to work it out. So my business decision it followed the same kind of narrative. So I waited about 7 months after the trial. And then I made the decision to close down my first business, stick with the name of my second business, and really just hit the ground running with a fresh start in this service-based model. Because I realized that was one of the things that I loved out of both businesses. With the product-based business, I was doing a form of life coaching because I really needed to listen in order to make the best product recommendations to help them with whatever was going on with them. And then with the graphic design business, people would come to me for logos and websites, but they really needed brand strategy and marketing strategy as well. So it was one of those things where it was like, well, if the knowledge that I have is the thing that's lighting me up, that I'm getting to share, that I'm getting to help people with, why am I doing this extra stuff and not getting paid for the thing that I'm actually loving? So I made this transition into a service-based model, and that brought on all the imposter syndrome
in
the world. Yeah. Like, I had been growing a successful business for 2 years, and then I switched and I'm like, I don't know how to grow a business anymore. And that was scary. And so out of fear, I joined a year-long coaching program that promised me, you do these frameworks and these strategies and you'll make 10K, you'll have $100,000 launches, the whole gamut of things. It suffices to say that did not happen for me. I did learn a lot. And some of those things I'm still using to this day, but it didn't look the way that I wanted to. And I realized a lot of that was because I was out of alignment. But what that really showed me was, not everything that everyone says works for everyone in this exact way. We're not one size fits all.
Yeah.
So lots of products and companies try and treat us like we're one size fits all. We're not. We're unique. We're different. And so it was through that business coaching program that I really began this quest of like, well, what is my superpower? Like, what is that thing for me? And through that journey, on top of the spiritual journey that I was already on, I found the tool of human design. And it literally explained so much of what I had gone through, my life, my personality, like the things that I like, the things that help, where I have emotional authority, where I didn't wait for clarity and things didn't pan out. And once I had this tool that helped me understand myself in this deep way, of course, right, I'm a one-line, I'm a researcher, I'm an investigator. And so I used it on my daughter. And it became very clear to me that this wasn't just a tool to understand yourself better, to embrace your gifts, but actually this is a tool to understand the people in your life.
Yeah.
Resistance in relationship as well. And I was like, there's no way I can keep this to myself. This is, especially for me, like at the time when I found it, and there's so many nuances to human design. I was like, this is all I want to learn right now.
Yeah.
All I want to do. And I got to figure out a way to make that happen, because obviously I was building a brand strategy business. And I was like, I don't know how this really ties in to brand strategy.
Yeah.
I don't really know where spirituality and incarnation cross comes into like business, but I'm going to find a way, because I really want to learn more about this. And through that journey of building and figuring out and spaghetti testing and doing all the things, I finally found the framework that was repeatable, that I can now walk clients through, so that it actually does make sense in brand strategy. It's not just like spirituality, business. It's like a nice blend of both.
I love that, because I think everything is in balance, and we sometimes we can't see the obvious path to get to the balance, but when we seek it, then it usually comes into play. And I agree. I don't think there is no one size fits all cookie cutter. We are all unique. It's one of the reasons that my logo is a fingerprint, because the one thing that's also unique about everybody is our fingerprints. So it was that part that's saying, actually, we should all be able to find our authentic achievement, whatever that is. And it doesn't matter if it's not the same as somebody else's, because that's theirs. That's theirs. And as I say to my little girl every day, it's like, your job in life, your one goal is to be the best version of you today that you can be, and a better version of you today than yesterday. Not better than anybody else, not comparing, because they're not you. All you can be is the very best you can be, and then constantly be looking for ways to be an even better you, one that feels more connected and brings more joy. And I think it's taken me a long time to get to that, to realize actually that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I was busy doing other stuff. But do you find that people are more aware of this now, or is it something that you're still finding you need to educate people on, the fact that there is that alignment?
So I am in that in between.
You've frozen, lovely.
Okay, am I back now?
You are, yes. Sorry, I was just about to type in case you couldn't hear me. Okay. Oh, you're frozen.
I saw it loading, but it had did it before and it was still doing it. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm fine. Question was, do I find, oh, yes. Okay. So at first it felt like I was pushing a boulder up the hill of like, this is why this is important. And it was because I was in the wrong environments. When I was really focused on business and brand strategy, I put myself in a lot of business, like development, small business type of networking groups. And so I was talking about AI tools and systems and things like that. And then to the group, which was predominantly male, like I then started talking about intuition and trusting yourself to guide your decisions. And they were like, that's not certain. You were talking about things that were certain, and now you're talking about things that what?
Yeah.
And so I was facing a lot of that resistance. But as I started to remove myself from those groups, what I found was that there actually are people who are awakening to this fact that we have forgotten who we truly are. Because from the moment that we were born, we're in our parents' energetic aura field, and they're teaching us what they've come to know and learn about the world, what they believe about the world. And then we grow up and we make friends, and we don't want to be ostracized, so we conform to fit in. And so there's all of these layers that have to be peeled back. And so people are now like, wait, hold on, what's happening? And so now it does seem like more people are finding out about it, especially like as I'm scrolling through Instagram, because as a researcher, I do look at other people's like human design things. I'm like, why does their marketing attract? And then I try and see if like their human design chart is on their website, so I can like pinpoint and be like, okay, so that's why what they said, that's why it hit so hard. And then of course now Meta sends me lots of human design things. So now it feels like everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case.
I think I think people seem to be more curious. And I think for me, that's a massive piece. I'm a big believer in the fact that we should be passionately curious, because that's how we learn. I often ask myself, why am I so convinced I'm right? Why am I so convinced they're wrong? Why am I so unwilling to be open-minded to the possibility that there's something else that could be going on? Because we say, don't we, that there's two sides to every story. Well, there's actually three, because there's your side, my side, and what actually happened, because we've colored our sides by our emotional experience, which has been based on everything that's happened to us until today. Whereas if there were, if somebody was videoing it with no emotion attached, you'd probably find what actually happened was somewhere in between. It's like where they're going. And I think that bit always fascinates me, because I then think, well, that's true then of every conversation, of every interaction, of every experience we have. So I can't, I should be open-minded to kind of find out, what did the other person think was going on, versus what did I think was going on. And I think I see a lot more of people having those conversations, of having that dialogue, of being less afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
Because societally, we want to be right, don't we?
Yeah. And I think that comes with like just the awareness and embracing that, because so many times we're afraid of being wrong because we're afraid we're going to get judged. And so the more and more people realize that, and I think Bronnie Ware said it best in her book, where like she goes through interviewing people at the end of life. And the number one regret that people had at the end of life was they didn't live a life as they wanted. They lived it as other people expected them to live it. Mm-hmm. And so people are realizing like life is too short. Like if you want to judge me, if you want to like I've started to adopt that. And it's funny what you say about like stories and beliefs and things like that, because I was recently doing an exercise where I had collected just limiting beliefs that my brain had been telling me on a piece of paper. And I went through and I did like the why exercise, where, the first, and someone actually explained this to me through NLP. I just learned it as the why exercise, which is where like you ask the question and whatever comes first is from your prefrontal cortex. It's like whatever. And then as you keep asking why, you get to the truth, you get to unpacking it. And so I recently did this with one of those beliefs. And it really came down to, like you said, there's your side, my side, and then there's what actually happened, the truth. And in doing that, even with my own brain, I realized that so much of what we believe has just been a miscommunication over years. Like it's just been stories that we've passed down and believed. Like I'll give a perfect example. So one of the beliefs that has really been challenging me when it comes to human design, because human design is like, especially as a generator, life brings me opportunities for me to respond. My sacral will tell me uh-huh or uh-uh. And then with emotional authority, I just have to wait to make sure that it's still an uh-huh or an uh-uh throughout my waves. Mm-hmm. And so there's this ease and flow that comes with following your design. And my brain starts tripping out. It's like, well, that's not the way that they say that it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to work hard and hustle and grind. And then after you put in a lot of effort, then it'll eventually pay off. Like that's how the system goes. And I'm like, no, actually, I've known so many people. So I really unpacked it. And it became this thing of, going back to the industrialization of like when machines became a thing. Like we in the US especially, I don't know if it happens there too, but we tell our children that if they go to school, they get a college degree, they'll be able to get a great job when they get out of college, because way back when that was true, right? Mm-hmm. We were working the jobs ourselves, and then the machines came. Then we needed someone to work the machines. Then we needed someone to manage the people who work the machines. And then upper management was born. And then those parents taught their kids, hey, if you want to get ahead, go to school before, so that way when you enter the workforce, you can enter as a manager and you'll just skip all of the hard work. And that was true for a while. And now kids are graduating with degrees and they're like, where's my job that's waiting for me? And it's like, about what you were taught. You're going to have to do this for a little while until you can find it. And it really was one of those things of like, no, actually, for a time that was true. You did have to get certifications and do all of these things. And now we're in a beautiful time where just being you authentically, we know this from influencers, just being you authentically will grab you an audience for you to be able to share your solutions, your insights with the people who are waiting for you. And so we have to really, as you said, get curious about what it is that we're believing and where is that coming from.
I love that. It's so true. Yeah, I mean, I left school at 15 to be a hairdresser, and that's all I ever wanted to do. But my career ended up in banking, and I was very lucky. I made it all the way up to the board. But even so, they would put me forward on these future leader courses that they'd seen something potential, and then they'd immediately suck their teeth when they looked at my CV and go, where's your degree? Oh, I don't have one of those. It's like, where are your A-levels? I don't have those either. But, I've got an MVQ in hairdressing that I'm really proud of. But because the system was starting to change, and actually you could get there through hard work and through being good with people and through doing what you said you'd do. But we haven't changed the myths. We haven't gone back and unpicked those stories and said, actually, you can be whatever you want to be. Might take you a little bit longer to get there. But if you really want to be it and you're willing to take the action, then actually you can, because you just keep learning and evolving every day. You just keep growing. But the biggest part of that for me was having to go back and unpick the inner dialogue, the things that I'd been saying to myself for years, that really held you back. And for me, my journey to go in and look at that was when I had my little girl and realized if I didn't go and change what I was telling myself, I'd teach her to tell herself the same thing. And that was horrifying to think that I was going to, make this amazing little earth angel that I've been gifted the opportunity to journey alongside, to send her down the wrong path and give her inner stories that will shape how she is. And so for me, I had to go and do that journey. So I say, okay, how can I make sure I don't damage this amazing little being and instead help them find the kind of true sense of being themselves, whatever that's supposed to be, and having some guidance. I say to as long as everything you're doing is kind, honest, and adds value, no one can really tell you it's wrong. But first, pass it through those lenses of: is it kind, is it honest, and does it add value? Because if it doesn't meet all three, make a different choice. Just make a different choice, and you'll live a happier life. And I love that with the work that you're doing, you're helping people to first acknowledge those inner stories as just what they are, stories, to enable them to then rewrite the story if it no longer serves them. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And it's one of those things where I have affirmations around it, but it was really cool to see one of them come true. I have a community and we meet every week on Tuesday mornings. And so this person had been in my community for like a month now. And every time she talks about she's a therapist now, which comes with all types of HIPAA laws and medical billing and all of that stuff. And she wants to get into coaching so that she can remove some of those restrictions and really give her clients the transformation that she wants. But whenever she thinks about like restricting her days or, saying like, you can only book on these days, she's like, I'm going to lose people, right? And that fear and that scarcity kind of mentality. She's like, I'm going to lose people. And for so long, I was like in my head, I'm like, well, then they're obviously not meant to work with you. Like if they leave, that's the universe clearing people out of your way who maybe aren't aligned for you. But I don't like to push in the community. I just want it to be an open space. Like my clients, I might challenge because I'm like, you know what? We need to challenge that story. We need to get to the bottom of what's happening here. But in the community, I let her go through her own process. And she recently on Tuesday just celebrated the fact that she's like, I'm changing my schedule. I just wrote it out. And it's because like what I love and I hate. I love when people get so fed up with the stories that they tell themselves that they're like, F it, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do the thing. I don't like it because then it's like, okay, well, let's make sure we're not acting out of pressure. Because sometimes when we get there, it's like, okay, well, I need to do something now in order to make this change happen or it's not going to happen. And it's like, no, hello, hold on, take a breath. Take a pause and see what actually feels good. And it's one of those beautiful things. She has emotional authority too. And to just see her feel out her authority over time and come to that emotional clarity of like, this is my business. This is where I'm going. Why am I keeping these things that are holding me back from bringing the thing that I want to bring into life, into form? Like, why am I doing this?
I love that because we distract ourselves, don't we? We're busy doing. I was chatting to somebody earlier today, and they were like taking that mental leap of going, well, I'm doing everything myself because I can. But does it bring you joy? Is it what you want to do? Because the thing you hate, somebody else probably loves. For them, it's like it's their go-to. Whereas for you, it's like for me, example, filing, not my thing. I hate it with a passion. My mum, she loves to file. She's the most organized person I've ever met in my life. And when she was hall secretary at the university, she had triple copies of everything, literally everything. I was like, Mum, why? I need a backup. And then a backup to the backup. I was like, I can't think of anything worse. But it really helped me bring to life the fact that we are all different. And therefore, just because for me that would be the worst thing I could possibly think of doing as well, for her, it was the best thing and it brought her joy. So knowing that you can work with people and go, look, the thing I hate, you love, and the thing you hate, I love. So how about I do your bit and you do my bit? And collectively, we're now working in a position where we're filling our belief, we're coming at it from that position of joy, is such a great breakthrough when you get there, isn't it?
It is. It's one of those things where that's actually what brought me my assistant. I realized I was like, okay, I don't like copywriting in this moment, especially because I was like still figuring things out. And so I brought him in and now he's such a help with so many other things. It's like, I'm so glad that I realized that I was working against my energy in this area, because in recognizing and in fixing that, it opened up a door for me to have this assistance to help me do all of these things, right? Solopreneurship is hard.
Simon, I could literally chat to you all day, but I'm really conscious that we're getting close to time and I want to ask you a couple more things. So you've already shared such great insight, but if I asked you to go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I would give her the advice that your feelings, your emotions, they actually are giving you so much valuable insight. And instead of minimizing them to make room for other people's opinions or what other people are telling you, challenge that and actually listen to what you believe. If I would have spent more time listening to myself back then, instead of making myself wrong, I would be so much further ahead right now.
I love that. That's such great advice. But I think, and I do absolutely agree with it. And I think sometimes we can look and go, I wish I'd known that then. But I think life often only makes sense in the rear view mirror. Right. We only understand it when we look back. And as my nan once said, what's meant for you doesn't pass you by. So wherever you're supposed to end up is going to be where you end up, and at the right time. I always believe that if we trust the process and we trust the timing, it might not be when we wanted it, but it will be when it should have happened. So Diamond, who do you work with and how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So I work with women leaders who are authority in whatever they're an expert in, as well as people who have influence in their own communities. And they recognize that they have a lot to offer in terms of insight, value, and knowledge, but they also know that they want more fulfillment in what it is that they're doing. And it is my joy to help them unpack who they are, to look at their energetic blueprint, which normally when people see it, they're like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, no, this is exciting. Look at how much information we have to unpack about understanding who you are. So those are the women that I work with. Typically they're millennials and Gen X baby boomers, but really I work with souls, right?
I love that. That's amazing. And we will make sure that how people can get in touch with you is in the show notes below. So if you want to learn more about how you find your journey back to yourself and really reconnect, then please do check the notes out below and connect with Diamond. Diamond, it's been such an absolute joy. I've learned so much. Thank you for coming and sharing your journey, your energy, and your insight with us.
Thank you.
And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found it as insightful, inspiring, and igniting to go and do something different. And until next time, take care.